Story 1. The Cabin. A hiker decided to go on a hike by himself, something he was not very used to. The whole day was normal. Trees and bushes engulfed his surroundings. He enjoyed being outdoors in the mountains. Nothing seemed strange to him. That was until he was making his way back to his car. He figured an 8-hour hike was good enough. The sky was already getting dark and he needed to get back fast. What was odd was how much he didn't recognize the trail back. He began to panic. Night had already taken over, and all he had was a flashlight and no clue on how to get back. He knew it was already too late and too dangerous to keep going through the perilous forest. He began to worry that he would have no shelter for the night, when almost luckily enough, he stumbled across a broken down cabin. It was dark and seemed like no one had visited it in years. But he knew it was the only place where he could rest until daylight, especially since his flashlight was running out of battery. He knocked on the door a few times, but no one answered, so he let himself in, where strangely enough, a perfect bed fitted for one person awaited him in the center. He knew that if the owner came back, he could explain himself. He was sure that the owner wouldn't mind, or was even probably dead. So he went ahead and got himself comfortable in bed. As he tried to sleep, he couldn't ignore the collection of paintings around the room. Portraits of strange-looking people, all peering at him, each wearing a smile that sent chills up his spine. Not too long after his exhaustion from the hike got the best of him, and he was able to ignore the faces. The next morning, he got up early and was shocked to see that there were no paintings around the room, but windows. Story 2. My family. I died 8 years ago. It wasn't particularly tragic or unusual, just a car accident. I don't blame the man who hit me. He was speeding because his wife was in labor and there was black ice on the road. He lost control of the car and I lost my life. It's not his fault. I know that. I'm not cruel. I'm not vengeful. If anything, I'm the opposite. You see, I don't have any family left, and I had lost my few friends around that time. When it was time for my funeral, the only people who came was my boss and the family who killed me. The wife held her newborn daughter close to her chest. I hated my boss, and the cemetery was awfully lonely, so I followed the family home. Lily may as well have been my own flesh and blood. She was sweet and bright and oh so very small. She had trouble sleeping if someone wasn't rocking her crib, and her parents were so tired. After they put her to bed, it was easy for me to rock her crib for her. I didn't get tired. I could help her. As the years passed, Jack and Laurie realized that they weren't alone in the house. It didn't take long from there to make a connection between my funeral and when I had showed up, and I'd never been malevolent, so they weren't afraid or angry. They started to burn candles on the anniversary of my death day. They left an empty chair for meals and holidays. I really felt like a member of the family. Someone is trying to force the door. It's Laurie's ex. He's obsessive. He's angry. He's going to hurt the family, my family. The thing about ghosts is that the more offerings you get, the stronger you become. I'd been enjoying candles, trinkets, and even the occasional food item for the past 5 years. I was strong from that. The knife feels warm in my hand, a shock of heat against the ice of my skin. Laurie, Jack, and Lily are my family. I care about them, and they're not gonna join me yet. Story 3. Birthday Girl. Good morning, sunshine. Time to wake up. I open my eyes and see Nurse Judy, ready to give me my morning injection. I sit on the bed and roll up my pajama sleeve. I feel the needle under my skin and the medication flowing inside my veins. The nurse gives me a wide smile. Good girl, you can go to the canteen now and have breakfast with your friends. Friends? I don't have friends here. My friends are almost 60 miles away from me, enjoying life, learning new stuff, making out at parties, certainly not spending their youth in a psychiatric ward. My parents put me there. It was after another anxiety attack at school. I lost control and tried to do something stupid. Now, everything seems stupid to me. I pass by Nutsy Nora's room. Her yelling is impossible to ignore. She keeps screaming Kelly and Jenna over and over again, whatever these names mean. I see 2 doctors rushing to her room with a set of tranquilizers. This place is full of people like her. I don't think I belong here. I enter the canteen and hear a loud surprise. I look around and see other patients gathered around a cake with number candles, 1 and 7, and an inscription, "Happy birthday, Robin." Right, it's my 17th birthday. Yay, I totally forgot. I force myself to smile and blow the candles. The cake tastes like soap or a cough syrup. I hide both candles in my pocket when nobody's watching. I guess it's the only gift I can count on today. I stop one of the nurses on the way back to my room. I ask if my parents are going to see me. She shrugs and walks away without saying a word. Bitch! As I lay in bed, I stretch my arms and look at my hands. They look so weird, so damn weird. Maybe it's a side effect of one of those medications? Nurse Judy interrupts my contemplation. She storms in with an afternoon dosage of pills. "How are you feeling, my dear?" "Did you like the birthday surprise?" she asks with that annoyingly sweet smile. "Yeah, I forgot today's the day." She takes my hand and says, "Oh, don't worry, darling. It happens to everybody." As she holds my hand, I ask her why my skin looks so strange. Nurse Judy gives me a sympathetic gaze. "I think it's normal at your age. Don't you think so, sweetie?" Is she trying to make a fool of me? Oh, I've had enough. "But I'm only 17, I say imploringly. "I don't know any other teenager with hands like these. Just look." I take the candles out of my pocket and almost rub them in her face. "You see? 1 and 7. 17, I bellow. Judy gently takes the candles from my shaking hands. "Robin, it's not 17. Let me show you the right order. It's 7 and 1. 71. Story 4. I should have read the reviews. My girlfriend moved out 3 weeks ago. My cat, Rook, was really close to her, and now that she's gone, I can tell he's a bit lonely, especially when I'm at work. I came home a few times to my curtains ripped up, or all the toilet paper in shreds. The last straw was when I came home after working late to find he had clawed a hole the size of a dinner plate into the side of the sofa. I decided I had to do something. I tried different toys, even catnip, but nothing worked. One night, while browsing Amazon, I saw a pet camera. It's a tiny camera that records your pet on a live feed so you can monitor their behavior while you're away. It even has an audio function so you can talk to them. Sounded silly, but hey, I love my furry dude, so I bought it. I got overnight shipping and installed it immediately. I decided to set it up in my bedroom as that was where Rook dwelled most. My first day at work, I think I checked that camera 30 times. When I spoke into the microphone, Rook seemed to be happier, and I noticed there was no destruction around the house either. By day 4, I figured I'd solved the problem with Rook. That leads me to right now. About 30 minutes ago, I climbed in bed with Rook, ready to close my eyes when my phone buzzed, a notification from the pet cam. I almost ignored it, sure I'd just triggered the thing, but I opened it anyway. What I saw made my grip tighten on the phone. Instead of a video of myself in bed, I saw a man, tall, gangly, with pale skin and large eyes. He was moving into my room with exaggerated steps, like a sneaking cartoon character. He got right up to the lens, so close I could almost smell his rotten breath, and he smiled. I immediately paused the video, terrified. I looked at the spot where the man should have been standing, but there was no one there. I went onto Amazon and found the pet cam and read the reviews, hoping for some weird glitch. It had to be a joke, right? The first dozen reviews were pretty standard, but it was the last that caused me to bolt upright. The customer complained that the camera was on a time delay, sometimes as much as 15 minutes. I went back to the video and pressed play with shaky fingers. I watched in horror as the man slithered under my bed, giving the camera a wink before disappearing in the darkness. Then I saw myself enter the room and climb in bed before the video ended. Now I'm sitting in my bed, knowing he's under it. I could call the police, but I doubt I'd have time. So please, do yourselves a favor and read the reviews. Story 5, 24 hours. Yesterday, Todd made it his mission to sleep with as many women as possible. He managed a whopping 37 in just 24 hours, an insurmountable amount for an average day. But this was not an average day. Who was going to say no to some sex? He didn't know he'd soon be a father to 6 illegitimate children, or he wouldn't have done it. Yesterday, Anne snapped and slit the throat of her toxic ex-husband. The neighbors walking by saw the whole thing through the window, but simply looked at each other, shrugged, and kept walking. Anne continued her day as usual, leaving the still warm body on her floor. She didn't know she would be arrested for murder, or she wouldn't have done it. Yesterday, Lacey took her husband and kids on a drive on the winding roads next to the ocean. Her hands shook as she gripped the wheel, while her kids sat oblivious in the back. She and her husband shared a meaningful look as she jerked the car to the right and into the crashing ocean waves. She didn't know she would be shunned while laying 6 feet under, or she wouldn't have done it. Yesterday, the news was announced that an unsurvivable asteroid was headed straight to Earth. Yesterday, the world erupted into unprecedented chaos as everyone had to decide what to do with their last 24 hours. But today, utter and complete pandemonium occurred because the asteroid missed. Story 6. Nobody wants to go near me anymore. People used to like me. They'd sit next to me on a park bench. They'd smile when they saw me. They were completely comfortable bringing their girlfriends and kids around me. Not anymore. Not since that awful murder. Now they cross the street to avoid me, and if they do look at me, it's only with a look of disgust. I wish I could tell them all how sorry I was. Sure, nobody blames me. It's not my fault. They know it wasn't my fault. But now they can't stand to even glance my way. I'm so lonely. God, what I wouldn't give to have someone sit down for lunch with me. I took the little things like that for granted for so long. I had to watch him die. They hanged him and left before he was even dead. I was the one that saw the life leave his eyes, saw the pain and desperation on his face, and I couldn't do a thing to help him. Those terrified eyes will haunt me for the rest of my life. I wanted nothing more than to reach out and save him, point the police to the murderers, and see those awful men put in jail for the rest of their lives. But I couldn't. I'll never be able to. I can't control where my branches bend, and my leaves can only rustle and whisper in the wind. Story 7. I did not kill a man when I was 8 years old. My stepfather hated everything my mother loved, not just me or her hobbies, and hell, probably himself too, but everything that made her happy. But Apollo, he hated more than anything. I was 5 when me and Mom got Apollo, a skinny, skittish puppy at the time. He was patient with me. Toddlers aren't always nice, but he worshipped Mom. The little I remember of that time was happiness. I was 7 when that man moved in. He didn't tolerate happiness in the house. He kicked Apollo for being too loud and soon kicked me as well. After almost losing a finger, he learned not to hit us when Apollo was there. If he had known that I had noticed that he feared the dog, he would have beat me for noticing. He hated weakness, and it was always someone else's fault if he didn't like how he was feeling. After a while, he started ordering me to herd Apollo into another room and close the door when he wanted to beat my mother. Apollo would bark, howl, and claw the door when it happened. The neighbors called animal protection 3 times, but never called the police. Some dogs can open doors. Apollo wasn't one of them. I did not kill a man, when I was 8 years old. All I did was open a door. Story 8. Someone broke into our home. It was every family's nightmare. My wife and I had the day off work, and we had taken our son out for lunch and some family bonding time. But as we approached our home, something felt off. I had a growing sense of dread the closer we got. As our house came into view, I could see that the front door was wide open. Someone had broken into our home. I told my family to wait outside in case the intruder was still inside. They obliged, and I slowly and silently made my way through our house. As I stepped into the living room, I saw broken furniture, nothing in its correct place, just utter chaos. Was this person looking for something? Did they have malicious intent? Why our home? Why us? Next, I walked to our kitchen. The fridge had been emptied. Dishes and food were thrown all over the room. What kind of person had broken into our home? A homeless person who just needed food? If so, why had they destroyed the living room? That's when I heard it. Footsteps in the bedroom. The intruder was still in our house. I took a brief moment to be grateful that I had asked my wife and son to wait outside. It was impossible to decipher this person's motive so far, but I was about to come face to face with the person that forcefully entered our home, and I would demand answers. I crept toward the bedroom slowly. I approached the door and focused on the sliver of light slipping through the crack. I could see faint shadows dancing in the light. I raised my hand, placed it against the door, and took a deep breath, readying myself for whatever may be on the other side. I pushed the door open and stepped through the threshold with authority. I couldn't believe my eyes. I actually rubbed my hands over them, thinking I was imagining things. There, in my son's bed, was a young girl with curly blonde hair. She stared at me with wide eyes. She must have been terrified. I must have been a few feet taller and at least 100 pounds heavier than her. I must have been a sight to see for that little girl. But she should have considered that before breaking into my home. I called my wife and son to see what I found. Is that a human, Papa? Why, yes, it is, baby bear. That's dinner. Story 9. There is no off switch. Enitech has announced its latest revolutionary product, the Workday chip. With this product, a person can go a whole workday and not even know it. It automatically initiates a sleep sequence in the user's brain, then controls their muscles so that they can do their job while completely unconscious. All of a person's energy can now be put into the things that really matter. Hobbies, family, friends. They never have to think about work again unless they're picking up their paycheck. Soon, this chip became a regular part of life. Some companies even started giving it out for free to employees. It was a win-win. The companies got more efficient workers, and the employees no longer had the stress of a job. You could hardly even tell a person was unconscious. The chip recognizes patterns and could converse just like its user would. For a while, this seemed like the perfect system. 3 years after the implementation of the Workday chip, the disease broke out. Nicknamed the Red Flame disease, it caused a terrible combination of coughing up blood and intense burning pain. It spread like wildfire, and soon the majority of the population was affected. Even though most people were in no state to work, the chips forced them to automatically. There was no off switch, and it was able to pick locks or break down doors in order to get its user to work. In the end, it didn't matter if a person had the chip or not. Everyone ended up dead. From the moment you first coughed up blood, you had mere days left to live. The disease didn't discriminate between the old and the young. Every single person eventually succumbed. It all happened so quickly that most bodies never even got taken care of. They were just left in their homes to rot away. Now, roaming the streets are corpses, doing nothing but going through the motions as if they were ghosts. Dead baristas try to ask customers that don't exist for their order, but some no longer have tongues. Shriveled hands work in factories to produce gadgets for nobody. Businessmen look before crossing the street on their way to work, but no longer have any eyes. These ghost-like beings are stuck in a strange purgatory. They are dead, but not at peace. Watching over these ghosts are the CEOs, the top 1%. They live in elaborate bunkers and clink glasses, laughing about how they will never have to pay another worker again. The workday chip has no off switch, and that's exactly how it was meant to be. Story 10. Take her swimming on the first date. Fake lips, fake eyelashes, fake brows, fake complexion, fake curves, and fake hair. All that, and no wonder blokes don't trust women nowadays. I ring the doorbell, and my date answers, looking just as stunning as when I'd asked her out at the pub. Anthea is a Mediterranean beauty, dark blonde hair framing her bandage dress, her olive skin radiant, but that's just how she looks. Me and my mates know looks can be deceiving. The amount of foundation some of these stuck-up birds in our neighborhood trowel on is atrocious. Who gave them the idea that vain cake faces are what guys dig? Everyone always jokes about how if you don't want to wake up next to a 2, you need to take her swimming first. Well, I'm not joking tonight. Where are we heading? Anthea coyly asks from my passenger seat. I hope I'm not overdressed. I reply. I was thinking we could take a walk by the shore, sit on the pier, and just relax. Sure, that sounds like a nice first date. Just no swimming, okay? Typical princess, I think smugly as I nod. What Miss Perfect doesn't know is that I'm actually planning a midnight dip in the sea for her. It'll be the ultimate gag, snapping a video for the group chat of an ice queen melting after I've tossed her off the pier. Tonight was wonderful, Alfie. Anthea swoons to me later that evening, dangling her legs over the jetty. Surreptitiously, I set my phone on the boardwalk to record her climbing out of the ocean. Now it's finally showtime. Interlocking my fingers with hers, I suddenly send the two of us lurching into the water. As I surface, I expect to see running mascara and waterlogged extensions. Indeed, my date's form is beginning to melt away, but what I'm glimpsing is skin shedding into scales, fingers melding into webbed claws. I can only tread water as the woman metamorphosizes into a serpentine monster before my eyes. Whatever illusion this creature had going, seawater has clearly broken it, and Anthea is not happy. We could have had so much more fun together, she hisses, incensed. This is premature. With that, the sea siren viciously seizes me and drags me underneath the waves, her voice echoing on as water fills my lungs. I only take men drowning on the last date.